My name is Navid Nazemian, and I am a global HR leader working for Vodafone. And I'm also an executive transition coach and the author of the book titled Mastering Executive Transitions. So yes, the book really captures the topic of executive transition. So it says on the tin what the book is all about. But I guess the key takeaways are, why is it an interesting topic, a topic that should be exciting to learn more about, both for HR leaders, but also for the execs and coaches who want to specialize in this topic. And it also speaks about the top 10 reasons for failure, and gives some ideas as to how we can all make executive transitions more successful. And the last chapter of the book looks at the topic of how to gracefully and successfully transition out of a role, which is the topic that is rarely spoken about. Yes, so there is a lot of research in this space, and one of the most prominent studies I cite in my book is from the former Heidrick & Struggles CEO, so one of the largest search firms in the world. And they did that survey over a 10-year time period. So they looked at over 20,000 executive placements, and they found out that 40% of them that were hired at the senior level are either pushed out, fail, or quit within 18 months. Which is quite shocking. But again, McKinsey, Harvard Business Review, Center for Creative Leadership, they all come to very, very similar conclusions. And so first off, we need to, make note of the fact that 4 out of 10 execs don't make it. And then that gets us into an interesting conversation around, how come? I mean, these are handpicked, the best of the best, usually in their industry or in their field. And so how come that 4 of 10 don't make it? And I dedicate an entire chapter to that. I mean, first off, without getting into the actual top 10 reasons for failure, if we were to aggregate the top 10 reasons into the grouping them into 3 reasons, you get into people, culture, and politics. So unsurprisingly, it's not the technical or the functional skills that seem to be getting in the way for the exec to be kind of, transitioning not successfully, but it's all the soft topics. And I think particularly people and culture are topics that can definitely be worked on, both by the exec and the HR department. But the 90% figures from Russell Reynolds, another large search firm, and they have done the research, and they found out that when you look at the total cost of hiring the executive into the organization, roughly 90% of the cost is spent on the hiring, the selection, and the assessment process. So I call that the upfront cost of hiring an exec. And something around 10% is spent on that same exec once they have been brought into the organization. And mind you, the 10% suggests that some organizations are not spending anything on the executive once they have been onboarded. And so, I talk about it as an organizational imbalance in investment. So it's not okay to spend 90% or more just to hire someone and then essentially let them to sink or swim. So I actually delayed the launch of my book because I really wanted this study to go in. And so this is a study that was conducted by DDI, and it came out in August last year, so it's really fresh. And so what they did is, it's called the Global Executive Transition Study. So they actually published that on an annual basis. And what they figured out is that there is somewhere between 13 to 22 percentage point difference between female execs and male execs getting the same level of support from the organization. And so, these kind of 3 items were the percentage of those execs that received leadership skills training, the percentage of the execs who received a formal assessment. And third, the percentage of execs who were assigned a formal mentor or an executive transition coach. So one of those three things, and all of them play a part in making sure that transitions are more successful. And again, the delta ranged between 13 to 22 percentage points. And it's quite shocking. And you know, the easiest explanation as to why that is because these kind of, you know, support mechanisms are not baked into the actual executive onboarding process. So any organization could eliminate that gap between the two genders by making sure that if you're part of this certain, you know, senior level and above in the organization, you will automatically be offered that sort of a support. So that is the easiest way to go about it. But I guess, you know, every organization needs to look into why that may be. And you know, if the process is as such that the exec needs to step forward to ask for that support, well, then that's how you sometimes get into these gender biases. And so it seems that the male executives are much more likely to come forward and demand that sort of a support versus the female counterparts who are maybe a little more humble or a little more reserved when it comes to asking for proper support. So yeah, that's another angle to look at the topic.